Raphael found them as dusk bled into evening, the last smear of amber fading from the windows of the Copper Heron. He burst into the room without knocking, the door striking the wall with a dull thud. His cloak clung to him, damp with sweat despite the cool air outside. His arms hung a satchel stuffed with books, pages sticking out in disarray. He stopped dead at the sight before him. Jihye lay on the bed, pale and exhausted beneath Joaquin's cloak. Her hair was damp against her forehead, her breathing shallow but steady. Joaquin sat beside her, one hand resting lightly near her shoulder, alert but calm. Caleb rose from where he'd been sorting supplies on the floor, his expression snapping into worry. "What happened?" Raphael demanded, his voice sharp. Not unkind, but edged with fear he did not bother to hide. Joaquin exhaled slowly. "Valerian found us." The room froze. Raphael pressed a hand to his brow. "Alive?" "No," Joaquin said quietly. Caleb's eyes widened. "She killed him?" Joaquin's gaze drifted back to the sleeping girl. "Not exactly." So Joaquin told it. Every detail. The whispered threat in the market, the knife, the alley, the moment the world bent and the thing beneath Jihye's heart tore its way free. He spoke of the void that had formed in her shape, the scream that did not belong to any mortal throat. He spoke of Valerian's death, swift, brutal, inevitable. And then of how she had turned on him until an ancient elvish lullaby reached her, the only thing that had brought her back from whatever abyss she had become. By the end, Raphael's face had gone ashen. He sank into the chair opposite Joaquin, staring at Jihye with something between horror and pity. "She shifted?" he murmured. "Not Fox?" "No," Joaquin replied. "Something else." Raphael closed his eyes. When he opened them again, the lines on his face seemed deeper. Then my reading was right. Caleb swallowed. "What reading?" Raphael lifted the satchel as if it weighed 100 stones. "I found the truth. Or enough of it." He stood, moved to the window and braced his hands on the sill. The sky outside was a deepening blue threaded with the first stars. "I will wait until she wakes," he said. "This is her story as much as ours, and she deserves to hear it with open eyes." They did not argue. Joaquin checked Jihye's pulse once more before returning to his quiet vigil. Caleb finished organizing their supplies, bandages, salves, food, fresh water, and everything they would need for the road. Then he slipped out briefly to collect the weapons they had left with the smith. When he returned, the blades gleamed, sharpened to perfect edges. Hours passed in uneasy silence. They spoke little, each lost in thoughts that orbited the same dark star. At last, as evening deepened fully into night, Jihye stirred. A small, broken sound escaped her. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first, then cleared with a jolt of realization. Pain flickered across her features, followed by fear, confusion, and deep, bone-deep exhaustion. Joaquin leaned towards her at once. "Easy," he murmured, voice soft as he lifted it upright. "You're safe here." She swallowed, her throat dry. Did I? "You came back," he said simply. "That is what matters." Raphael stepped forward, a bowl of steaming stew in his hands. Eat first, he said gently, then we talk. She took the bowl with trembling fingers. The warmth of the stew seemed to steady her. Caleb fetched more food, bread, a flask of watered wine, and soon they were all gathered around the room's small table, the fire crackling softly. When Jihye set her empty bowl aside, Raphael took a long breath and began. I will tell you a tale of the old gods, he said, and the greatest among them, Arcanthus. The name cut through the air like a blade. Something cold in Jihye's chest tightened. Raphael continued, his voice steady, though his eyes were grave. In ages long before kingdoms rose, before the elves carved their cities or the humans tamed the seas, the world belonged to the original gods. They were not merciful. They were storms given thought, earthquakes given voice, and Arcanthus was the most dreadful of them all. Jihye's fingers curled into her cloak. Arcanthus hunted mortal races, not out of hunger, but disdain. He despised weakness, despised limitation. To him, mortal hearts were blights, and so he culled them. Entire peoples vanished beneath his shadow, not slowly, but in moments, ripped from the world with such finality that even memory faltered. Caleb shivered. But he was bound. Someone bound him. Yes, Raphael said, but the lost part of the tale is how. He reached into his satchel and withdrew a slim black notebook, placing it gently on the table. Arcanthus had an ego unmatched even among gods. In his arrogance, he chose to create what he believed to be a superior race. To begin this, he fathered a child with a mortal woman. Jihye's breath caught. The child was powerful, too powerful. When a prophecy foretold that his child would be his undoing, Arcanthus sought to destroy her. Caleb covered his mouth. Joaquin leaned back, eyes widening. But the mages? Raphael nodded. A group of mages discovered a way to use the child's connection to him as a binding. They sealed the child's power and through her bound Arcanthus himself. It was the greatest act of magic ever recorded. A god locked away, his power stilled and his fury muted. Jihye's heart pounded painfully in her chest. But, Raphael said softly, the mages grew old, their descendants grew weak, and eventually their bloodlines faded. The binding began to fray, and the child's power returned, and so too did her existence. Silence settled, thick and unbreathing. Joaquin spoke first. The child, he whispered. It is Jihye. Jihye stared at him, then at Raphael. No, she said, I'm only in my 20s. I know my parents. I was born to them. Raphael nodded. Yes, your parents were having trouble conceiving, were they not? They sought spiritual help. Help that came in the form of the amulet you carry. Jihye's hand flew to her coat, gripping the metal beneath. That amulet, Raphael said, did not bless them. It allowed your rebirth. It is where the god spirit was bound. It is where you slept until the binding cracked. Jihye shook her head in disbelief. But I got it from Valerian. Your parents must have tried to discard it, Raphael said. But the amulet is tied to you. It would always find its way back, even into the hands of a crime lord. Can you tell us why you took it? Jihye opened her mouth, closed it. Every memory of that day in Valerian's vault stirred with a new, terrible clarity. She did not answer at first. The silence grew long enough that even the fire in the hearth seemed to dim. Finally she whispered, You need to kill me. Caleb gasped, stumbling to his feet. No, absolutely not. Jihye kept her gaze on Raphael. Kill me and bind Arcanthus again before he wakes, before more people die. Raphael's mouth opened, but no sound came. Joaquin moved. He did not speak. He did not hesitate. He surged forward, blade flashing in his hand as he crossed the space between them in a heartbeat.